Today is Monday, August the 23rd, and as you know, if you've been following these videos for the last, maybe it's been a couple of years, we always look at the McClellan oscillator, and it's always a good indicator of when we're going to see the market turn around in one direction or the other. It's probably the best indicator out there. It hit this low, and we said that based on what we'd seen for other lows, we expected a bounce. We got a small one, we got a bigger one, we got a bigger one, and now we're up to almost the neutral line, which is where we started to churn the last time we hit one of these lows. So just take a look at this McClellan oscillator, mcoscillator.com, and look at what happens every time we hit the oversold line and then go below it. History does repeat itself. Now, the other thing we started to look at, is the summation index. Look at what the summation index means. The summation index, I'll just tell you, as we're plotting it in the red columns here versus the blue S&P, look at what it was on October the 8th of last year when I started to put points on the chart here. It's right at this level here. And if I can highlight it for you, you see that it's, what's the value there? It's 966. And what is the summation index today? 929. So it's lower than it has been since last October. Now, what happened when it started this rise upwards? It sort of signaled that as it was coming back up, the market was just finishing or going into a decline. And then here, when we started to move down, we had a little bit of a decline. We had another one. We had another one. We should see the McClellan oscillator start to turn positive, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't have a repeat of this back here. But all it means is a healthy pullback, a viable pullback, and as the charts are going to tell us, we should expect this week at least to see the advancers leading the decliners, because that's what's going to move the McClellan oscillator higher. And that number you can see on FinViz roughly. I mean, it's not the number that McClellan uses because it includes far more stocks than he does. He's just using the stocks on the New York Stock Exchange, whereas FinViz is using thousands more. But we had 3-to-1, just like on Friday, 3-to-1 advancers versus decliners, lower volume than on Friday. And the Dow sort of just drifted. The NASDAQ is what we're surprised at. And we've been looking at the NASDAQ, which has been falling behind the other indices in making new highs. But it happened today. So let's look at those right now. The Dow Jones did not make a new high, but the Chico span told us last week with this bounce right here that there was going to be a reversal. We also had the Dow Jones hitting the 50. The NASDAQ was the one that was trailing and hadn't been making new highs, but we had this really interesting one back on Thursday, this bounce right off at the top of this candle, and now the NASDAQ has made a new high after struggling since basically right back here, August the 5th. It had come back not quite to the 50, but it was struggling behind the other indices of making a new high. And the S&P touched its previous high, didn't make a new high, made a new high, but not a new closing high. And it too was presaged by this bounce on the top of the candle back last Thursday. The volatility index, meantime, let's get rid of the Ichimoku just to make this a little bit easier to read. And you can see that, in fact, we'll get rid of all of the averages. And you can see that the zone here, where I call the complacent zone or the sleeping zone, where really nobody's worried about the market, we have come into that now, and we are in the complacent market, which means that the S&P should go up again. Now, if you're following the stocks that I've been following, I'm going to tell you which ones I've owned if you haven't figured it out. You had a great day today. Today was one of the best appreciation days that I've had in a long time. One is Apple, where I only own vertical calls. but that stock was up 1%. Caterpillar is one that I got out of and tried to get back into today, but wasn't able to. And I didn't want to chase the stock. I would love to have a little bit of a pullback tomorrow. And because it's running into the cloud tomorrow, I expect to see another test of the 200. So I'm going to take this arrow and put it out here and see if we can get another test of the 200. And that's when I'm going to buy Caterpillar again. I started to buy some today, but wasn't able to. The stochastic indices, this one is turning around. This is your faster moving, and your slower moving continues to move up higher to the overbought line. So this would be a good time to buy, but you have time because look at the size of this cloud. You're going to see the stock, I think, pull back, then try to make a run through the cloud, but it's going to struggle for a while. There's a lot of meat here that it has to cut through, and it's going to give you time to buy more Caterpillar, a good infrastructure stock. Now, the other one that I have is NIO. NIO was up today, and look at the Chiku span is now into the cloud. It's certainly been important in the past, resistance on the 200, and we saw support in the cloud, resistance on the cloud. Now we're in the cloud, and both of the momentum indicators are turning around and moving higher. The other stock that I have is Square. Still very low volume. This is my position. The long-term oscillator is going down, but the short-term oscillator shows that we've got a bit of a chance to run higher, but it's downward motion. We've almost got 3 triple tops here. Its downward motion isn't quite complete. Probably would be complete when it hits the cloud and then moves higher. And then the other stock is Cassava Biosciences. And you can see the position I have there, 1,000 calls, 1,000 stock, and then short calls, short 125 calls that I opened for $1.30, so it's $7.31. Short, I closed my 125, so 135 last week, and then opened new ones for 734. Not worried too much here about the stochastics because this is really a news-driven and a rumor-driven kind of stock. And the latest rumor is that they're going to make an announcement before the end of August. And that is bound to create some excitement, which we saw today. The other stock that I own, which is a safety stock, is AT&T. And AT&T is, well, it wasn't a zone here. Maybe if we're generous and we extend the zone a little bit to the bottom of that cloud, we can see that it's still trading in that zone, but it's losing favor because down the road it's going to spin off 40% of its business, and that's going to impact its dividend. Long story, read Seeking Alpha, you'll find out all about this one. But I think it's important, and I keep buying AT&T as long as it's paying a 6% dividend. Now, the other stocks that I own in another portfolio but aren't very important are Abbott, which did make a new high today and then pulled back. IBM, which I sold the 145 calls against my stock, and they're October, so I do expect it to have difficulty really reaching the 145 level before October. So this is where the point where I would lose my stock at 145 right here. And I think it's got a long way to go. So I'm happy that I was able to collect or hold on to $2 premium. My break even will be a 147.95. So that's it for today. McClellan oscillator is telling us there's a good chance to go higher, and all of the indices are telling us that there's still more to come as well.